The maid kissed the millionaire in front of everyone, but his daughter uncovered a shocking truth. The ballroom was electric. The air crackled with whispers, laughter, and disbelieving gasps. All eyes were on Margaret, the young maid, whose heart raced as she stepped onto the polished marble floor, her cheeks flushed with courage. In an unexpected twist that could only be described as a scene from a wild movie, she approached the dapper millionaire, George Hargrove, and planted a bold kiss right on his lips. Gasps echoed, voices muffled in shock. No one could believe their eyes. Who was this woman, this small-town girl, daring to traverse the invisible line that separated the wealthy from the working class? As Margaret drew away, a glint in her eye mixed with fear, George looked taken aback but exhilarated. His wife, Helen, stood frozen, her perfectly manicured hands trembling by her side. They had shared a grand estate and opulent dinners for years, but who would ever dare disrupt their elegant facade? The room buzzed with anticipation, every guest wondering what this audacious act foretold. But then, as the crowd's shock morphed into murmurs, a heavy silence settled, giving way to dread. George's daughter, Emma, only 16, eyed the scene from across the room, her heart pounding like a war drum. Something about this kiss felt wrong, like the first crack in a glass facade that had guarded hidden secrets for far too long. Suddenly, chaos erupted. Emma rushed forward, arms flailing, desperate to expose whatever lurked beneath this display of love and betrayal. People shuffled away, creating a half-circle, eyes full of wonder and suspicion. Emma's voice rang out with the intensity of a siren. "What are you hiding, Mom?" The accusation hung in the air, thick and suffocating. The atmosphere shifted, everyone leaned closer, eager for the truth behind this shocking scene. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." Across the room, Helen's face turned as pale as the silk drapes. The truth within her hung like an unbalanced scale, waiting for a final nudge. "Stop it, Emma," she snapped, her voice strained, desperately trying to maintain control, but inside, she could feel the ground crumbling beneath her. But it was too late. Emma's wide eyes brimmed with determination. This was only the beginning. What shocking truths lay hidden in the shadows? As the crowd held its breath, Emma took another step forward, ready to unleash a storm that would shake their lives to the core. What had Margaret really uncovered? Was this kiss just the tip of a colossal iceberg? The tension in the room was suffocating. Guests stood frozen, their eyes darting from Emma to her mother, searching for the truth amidst the chaos. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs as she confronted Helen, who was desperately trying to mask her fear with icy resolve. "What is going on?" Emma pressed, unable to contain her fury. "Who is she really? Why would you let this happen?" Margaret, still reeling from her own bold action, felt the weight of every gaze upon her. She had never intended to spark such turmoil. The kiss had been an impulse, an act fueled by unspoken feelings she had bottled up for far too long. But now, standing at the epicenter of this explosive moment, she felt utterly exposed. George, caught between his wife and daughter, turned to Emma with a frown. "This is not the time, Emma. Your mother no." Emma interrupted, her voice piercing the air like a thunderclap. "She needs to answer, not you. I know something is wrong. You can't pretend everything is fine anymore." Helen's lips trembled, then set into a thin line. "This is a misunderstanding, Emma. Please, just let it go." But Emma wasn't backing down. "A misunderstanding? You're kissing someone else's lips, and you call that a misunderstanding?" The crowd shifted, whispers rippling through like a wave crashing upon the shore. Margaret, her resolve beginning to waver, felt compassion towards the girl before her. She was just a kid caught in a tempest of adult deception, and Margaret understood that feeling all too well. "Emma, this isn't what you think. I didn't mean to disrupt silence," Helen roared, the venom in her voice startling everyone into stillness. "You will not involve her in this." But Emma pressed on, undeterred. "Involve me? Mom, this is my life too. I want to know who this woman is and why you're letting her kiss Dad." All heads turned toward George, who stood like a ship lost at sea. Margaret hadn't initially considered George's reaction. He was the one who had seemed most affected by her kiss. Now, as he turned towards his daughter, he struggled to find the words, feeling more trapped than ever in the situation. "What do you want me to say?" George finally said, his voice strained. "I didn't plan for this. But if I'm honest, things between your mother and me haven't been right for a while." Gasps erupted throughout the room, shock washing over the guests like a tidal wave. The revelation hung in the air, heavy and electric. Emma's eyes widened in disbelief. "What are you saying? You're actually admitting it?" The room buzzed with chaotic murmurs. Helen shot a glance at her husband, filled with a mixture of rage and betrayal. "You can't mean that. Not here." But it was too late. Emma's face turned as red as a raging fire, fueled by a mix of anger and confusion. "No more lies, Dad. You have to tell the truth now." The whispers evolved into an uproar. Margaret's cheeks flushed with embarrassment as she began picking up the fragments of her bravery. This was her moment, though it felt like falling into an abyss. She hadn't just kissed a millionaire, she had knotted herself into a web of deceit that threatened to strangle them all. Just when it seemed the truth would come crashing to the surface, a sharp chime sounded. The sudden noise split the heavy air, drawing every eye toward the grand clock that stood sentinel against the wall. It was midnight, and in an instant, the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. Gasps of shock erupted again. Would this plunge unravel yet more secrets hidden away in shadows? As the crowd fumbled in the dark, Emma's heart raced. "No. This can't happen now." Muffled voices echoed in confusion, and then a scream shattered the silence, slicing through the darkness like a knife. "Someone! Help!" In that instant, everything shifted. The truths that had been whispered in corners suddenly loomed large and terrifying. Who was in danger, and what secrets would emerge when the lights came back on? The darkness consumed them, but one question remained: what truth lay hidden in the shadows, waiting to be brought to light? The darkness enveloped the room, clinging to emotions like a thick fog. Emma's breath quickened, every sound amplified in the absence of light. The harsh click of heels echoed on the marble floor, and she strained to see anything, but the void was impenetrable. "Margaret?" George shouted, panic creeping into his voice. "I'm here." Margaret's voice was a tremor, laced with fear. The scream had come from the corner where an elderly guest had slipped, perhaps tripped over the leg of a table or even another person. The night of glamour had turned into a chaotic nightmare. "Stay where you are," Helen cried, desperation leaking into her words. "Everyone stay calm." But calm felt impossible. The confusion grew louder as people sought a wall to brace against or hands to hold onto. Emma's pulse pounded in her ears, drowning out any semblance of rational thought. She wandered blindly, feeling her way through the darkness, heart racing with each step. "Is anyone hurt?" She called out, but her voice felt swallowed by the night. Suddenly, a sharp gasp cut through the murmurs. A flash of movement caught her eye, someone darting toward the exit. "Wait! Don't go!" Emma shouted, but the silhouette slipped away, vanishing into the night. "Emma!" George's voice sliced through her rising panic. "Just stay with me." "I can't!" she shrieked, frustration boiling over. "I have to find out what's happening." As if summoned by her fear, the lights flickered back on with a blinding intensity, illuminating the chaos before her. A few guests were huddled around the old woman on the floor, hands flailing as they tried to help her. But Emma's focus shifted. Her gaze snapped to the corner where the figure had disappeared. Instinctively, she rushed over, heart pounding in tandem with her footsteps. Just beyond the ornate French doors, beneath the warm glow of the moonlight, a shape slumped against the wall. It was the figure she had seen earlier, now identifiable, someone she recognized. "Margaret! What are you doing?" Emma gasped, her breath catching as she approached. Margaret looked up sharply, her face pale and strained. "She needed to know, Emma." "I thought." Emma's mind raced through the implications. "Thought what?" "That your kiss would save us." "Listen to me," Margaret's voice fractured. "I couldn't bear to watch your family fall apart without trying something. But I didn't mean for this. It doesn't matter now." Emma spat, anger mingling with pain. "How are we supposed to fix anything when you've made it worse?" "I thought if I made George see what he was throwing away." Margaret's voice trailed off, regret etched into her expression. But one glance toward the ballroom told Emma things had only spiraled further. Guests were whispering, judgment lingered in the air like smoke. Hate and betrayal blazed in every eye as they shared glances, each one questioning motives, alliances, and hidden agendas. "What is happening?" Emma whispered, terrified of the answer. Then, George emerged from the crowd, his expression shifting from confusion to steely determination. "I need to talk," he said firmly, stepping toward them. But before he could reach Emma, Helen intercepted him, her fury igniting. "You can't just waltz back in and act like everything is fine. You should have thought about how this all looks." With every word exchanged, Emma's heart plummeted deeper into the unknown. This was no longer just about a kiss in front of a room full of people, it was about unraveling lives and the fallout from choices made in the dark. As the tension thickened, a piercing scream shattered the standing stillness once more. "Someone's missing!" A voice shrieked from the crowd. Emma felt a chill sweep over her, an icy hand gripping her spine. Who was missing? The thought hit deeper than the fray surrounding them. With dread pooling in her stomach, she instinctively turned back to Margaret. "Who?" Margaret's eyes widened in horror, and her mouth opened to answer. But the air thickened, a weighty silence falling over them. Whatever truth was about to emerge would forever change the night, what had been lurking beneath the surface, and who would pay the price for it. With a collective gasp, the crowd fell silent. Emma's heart raced as the stillness wrapped around her like an unwanted embrace, waiting for the truth to fall. Margaret's eyes darted around the room, catching the glances of onlookers, each one stealing pieces of her resolve. "Who's missing?" Emma pressed, desperation tightening her throat. Margaret opened her mouth again but seemed to choke on her words, as if the truth were a live wire. Finally, she managed, "Lydia, she wasn't with us when the lights went out." The name struck Emma like a blow. Lydia, her younger sister, always the one with a bright smile and endless enthusiasm. Panic surged through her veins. Where could she be? Emma asked, her voice trembling. "Maybe she's with that group in the hallway," Margaret suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. "I saw her laughing before," but Emma cut her off, her instinct overpowering the fear. "I'll find her." She broke away, weaving through the sea of anxious faces, each one brimming with their own brand of confusion. "Emma! Wait!" George shouted after her, his voice full of urgency. She didn't turn back, she couldn't. The urgency of Lydia's absence consumed her. The ballroom swirled with noise, but all she could hear was her heart thumping in her ears as she stepped into the hallway. It felt colder outside the ballroom, the butterfly light shattered by the shadows. As she moved deeper into the night, she called out, "Lydia." Her voice echoed, swallowed by the silence of the darkened corridor. She stumbled toward the small garden that bordered the main hall, the manicured hedges rustling ominously in the wind. "Lydia!" She called again. Anxiety tangled with anger. Where could she be? Emma turned when she heard a faint sound, a whimper from the shadows behind the bushes. She rushed forward, heart in her throat, pushing the branches aside. What she found made her blood run cold. There was Lydia, slumped against the ground, her face streaked with wetness and a wild look in her eyes. "Lydia!" Emma cried, dropping to her knees beside her sister. "What happened? Are you hurt?" Lydia shook her head, still trembling, unsure of her own emotions. I saw something," she stammered, her voice raw. "Something I wasn't supposed to. I don't know why I followed." And then her lips quivered, and her tear-filled eyes met Emma's, impossibly wide and full of fear. "What did you see?" Emma urged, gripping her sister's shoulders, desperation flooding through her. "I saw Margaret. But she was torn apart." "No, not like that." Lydia paused, catching her breath, her thoughts splintering. "I saw her with George. But it wasn't just a kiss. They were plotting against everyone." "Emma, there's more." Before Lydia could finish, a sharp noise burst from the shadows' footsteps. Emma instinctively shielded her sister, bracing for whoever had entered their fragile sanctuary. The tension snapped back to life, electric and dangerous, as someone stepped into view. It was her father, his expression grim. "What are you two doing out here?" he growled, and the weight of his presence felt like a dark cloud pressing down on them. But Emma had no time to address him. She turned back to Lydia. "What else did you see?" The tension flickered like a dying flame, and just as Lydia opened her mouth to speak, another scream echoed from inside the ballroom. Everyone was on edge now. What had they uncovered? "Let us go!" Emma shouted, pulling Lydia to her feet. Together they ran back toward the chaos, hearts pounding in unison, with one burning question on their minds: what if Margaret's kiss was just the beginning of a much darker game? The moment to confront the truth had arrived, but what other secrets would unravel in the light? As they rushed back into the ballroom, the air was thick with confusion, hoveringly charged by tension and fear. The once grand space felt claustrophobic, filled with frantic whispers and darting glances as guests moved in a frenzy. Emma strained her eyes, searching for George. "Where is he?" she muttered under her breath, scanning the crowd. The luxurious chandeliers still flickered, casting erratic shadows that danced across the worried faces of those who remained inside. The scream had sent a ripple of panic throughout the room. Emma's stomach dropped as she spotted Margaret, trembling near the entrance, her wide eyes flickered with fear, too. She was breathing heavily, her blouse stained with something dark. "Margaret!" Emma shouted, but panic stole her words, cutting them short before they could reach her. Margaret turned, blinking rapidly, the sheen of sweat glistening on her forehead. "Emma, you need to get out of here." Margaret gasped, her voice strained. "It's not safe." "What do you mean?" Emma felt her heart pound fiercely against her chest, the urgency rising like a cresting wave. "Lydia, she saw something." Before she could finish, another scream echoed from the other room, this one haunting and guttural. The crowd swelled, surging towards the sound in a fit of terror, and Emma was swept along with them. She felt a tightening around her throat as her pulse quickened, the sight of the residual darkness clouding her thoughts. Emerging into a side room, they found George kneeling beside a crumpled body on the floor. Emma's breath caught. It was Mrs. Henderson, one of the charity gala's organizers, her eyes wide open but staring into nothingness. A deep gash marred her neck, and Emma felt bile rise in her throat. "George!" she screamed, bolting to his side. "What happened?" He looked up, his face pale and stricken. "I don't know. His words faltered as his gaze shifted. "I thought I saw someone. They just vanished into thin air." "They were fast," he breathed, unable to mask the tremor in his voice. Emma's mind raced, piecing together fragments of Lydia's warning. Deadly intentions lingered in the air, a dangerous game unfolding before them. How could this happen at such a public event? "People need to leave. Now." Margaret shouted, snapping Emma's focus back to her. They won't listen, Emma replied, her heartbeat drowning out thoughts of escape. Instead, she felt propelled to uncover the truth. Emma, we need to go. It's too late. George pleaded, his hands shaking as he reached for her. No. Emma growled, shaking her head in defiance. Inspiration struck her. If we can find out what Lydia really saw, suddenly, a door slammed shut at the end of the hallway, startling them. Laughter echoed eerily from beyond it, a discordant jiggle that sent chills racing down Emma's spine. What is that? George whispered, stepping slightly ahead. With a shared glance, they understood the urgency. This was their chance. They had to confront whoever it was on the other side. Emma pressed ahead, her heart in a race against time as she reached for the doorknob, determination flooding through her veins. Are you ready? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. They nodded, fear and resolve intertwining. As she twisted the knob and pushed the door open, the sight that awaited them was as sinister as the rumors whispered in the shadows. Figures loomed in the darkness, cloaked in a layer of secrecy and malice, just a few feet away. Welcome, one of them crooned, the word silky smooth and laced with danger. You finally found us. The room closed in, reality shifting as Emma realized they were no longer in the realm of the gala but in a web far more complex and deadly than she had ever imagined. She took a breath, her pulse racing, leading her toward an unknown destiny. But the most chilling question surfaced: what dark revelations lay ahead, and would they leave anyone unscathed? Emma stepped into the dim room, her heart pounding in sync with the low, rhythmic thud echoing in the distance. The figures before her shifted, a ghostly collection draped in dark fabric, their faces obscured. The one who had spoken, his voice slid through the air like oil, stood slightly apart, eyes glinting as they met hers. Who are you? Emma stammered, feeling her resolve waver. An interest group, shall we say, the voice replied, smooth as silk. We're here to make a statement. He gestured with a sweeping arm, revealing a gathering of sinister shapes lurking behind him. Each draped figure tensed, as if preparing for what came next. George stepped slightly in front of Emma, the instinct to protect her igniting a fire in him. You don't want to do this, he said, trying to project authority he didn't feel. Who said anything about wanting? The figure laughed, the sound echoing off the bare walls. We're the ones giving real stakes to this event. You should be grateful to be part of something bigger than yourself. Their laughter twisted in Emma's gut, and she stepped forward instinctively. What do you mean, bigger? This isn't a game. People are dead. Dead? The cloaked figure leaned forward. Ah, but perhaps not dead enough. Emma's mind reeled. What did that even mean? The weight of the room pressed in on her, the shadows creeping closer, suffocating her with an overpowering sense of dread. She fought against the rising fear and focused on the dim light glinting off the edges of the knives strapped to their belts, gleaming reminders of what was at stake. Lydia saw something, Emma blurted out, clutching onto the hope of knowledge. She warned us. You're involved, aren't you? Oh, poor Lydia, the voice crooned, mocking concern. You can't save her. No one can save anyone here. Suddenly, the door behind them slammed shut, echoing like a judgment day. Panic bubbled in George's throat. We need to get out now. Emma turned on her heel, her voice strong now despite the tremors that betrayed her. We will not be part of your sick game. A shadow moved fast, darting toward them. A figure. Emma instinctively grabbed George and ducked away. The cloaked group shifted, confusion scrambling behind the masks they wore. Someone fell backward, sending a cascading thud through the room. Useless. Another voice barked, frustration layering the tension. George whispered, what do we do? Find a way out, Emma breathed, scanning the walls. Her eyes landed on a window at the far end, a glimmer of light breathing hope into the darkness. We can make it over there, but we need to stick together. Before they could make any move, a loud crash erupted as one of the figures flung open another door behind them, revealing a corridor flooded with flickering lights. "Get them!" The commanding figure shouted, his menacing voice drowning out every other sound. Adrenaline surged as Emma grabbed George's wrist, pulling him down the narrow escape route. They barreled through, dodging outstretched hands that grasped like skeletons desperate to hold them. Their breaths came quick, wild, despairing. "Emma, they're gaining!" George gasped, the sheer speed of their pursuers almost paralytic. "Faster!" Emma screamed, bursting into a new room larger than the last, with opulent decorations twisted by shadows. An unsettling calm enveloped it, filled with the eerie echoes of the gala that had just descended into chaos. Their eyes darting around, they spotted a set of doors at the far end, promising freedom but also uncertainty. Just as they made to run again, a sudden clamor of laughter twisted through the air, a familiar sound that sent tremors down Emma's spine. "Do you ever wonder," a velvety voice crooned from the shadows, "how deep this game really goes?" The realization crashed over them like ice water. They were in the belly of something far more insidious than they could comprehend. Heart racing, Emma turned to George. "We have to keep moving. We need to look." He interrupted, pointing to a figure stepping out into the light, the last person she expected to see, eyes gleaming with a secret. She desperately needed to understand. "What are you doing here?" Emma asked, her resolve hardening into something cold and fierce as the mystery deepened. But before Emma could get any answers, an explosion of sound erupted from behind them, sending them tumbling forward as all promise of safety vanished into the storm of chaos behind. What secrets had the figure brought with them, and had their chance for escape slipped through their fingers? Chaos erupted as the room drowned in confusion, shattered glass glittering like fragments of hope. Emma scrambled to her feet, the echoes of laughter billowing into the air like smoke from a fire. She searched for that familiar face, uncertain of her footing amidst the encroaching darkness. "Get down!" George shouted, yanking her just as another cloaked figure lunged for them. The air was thick, dangerous, charged with tension as Emma's heart pounded like a drum. They needed to hurry. They had to find a way out of this nightmare before it devoured them whole. A flickering light caught her eye, leading away from the main room. "This way," she urged, pulling George toward the light that danced teasingly at the end of a hallway. Behind them, the sinister laughter morphed into a cacophony of shouts, the figures gaining ground, their footsteps echoing like a countdown to doom. Emma's breath caught in her throat. "Stay close." As they rounded a corner, the light grew brighter, revealing an ornate staircase spiraling upward. Emma hesitated only for a moment before racing up, dragging George along. Each step felt like an act of defiance against the oppressive fear that clung to them. "Our only chance is to keep moving," she urged, determination fueling her already fraying nerves. They burst into a lavish ballroom brightened by chandeliers, momentarily blinding them. It was deserted, an unsettling contrast to the chaos they had just escaped. The polished floor reflected their frantic movements, and Emma felt a pang of hope. Maybe they could find someone to help. Suddenly, from the shadows, a figure emerged, tall, confident, and unmistakably familiar. "Emma?" "George?" Lydia's voice was shaky but laced with relief. "I've been looking for you." The sight of her friend struck Emma like a lifeline tossed in tempestuous waters. "We thought you were," she started, the words caught in her throat. "I'm fine. But we need to go. They're everywhere," Lydia said, her eyes scanning the room. "We'll never make it out if we don't stick together." Emma glanced over her shoulder, her skin prickling. "They're not far behind. We need a plan." "Let us head for the kitchen," Lydia suggested, pointing toward a service door behind the bar. "It leads to the back alley. If we're quick, we can slip out." Without waiting for affirmation, Emma shoved open the door, and they dashed through, the back of the house buzzing with a chilling quiet. Every footstep echoed unnaturally, every shadow played tricks on her mind. She couldn't shake the feeling they were being hunted. Panic welled up inside her, almost overwhelming. "What is this place?" Emma whispered to herself. What do they want from us? There's no time. Lydia hissed, urgency in her voice. Just keep moving. They reached the kitchen, the air rich with the smell of burnt garlic and fear, and they pushed through another door to find themselves in a narrow passageway lined with crates. But when they got to the end, a shocking sight lay before them, a massive, bolted door, impossible to breach. What now? George questioned, the weight of despair heavy in the air as if mocking them. The room rattled with the sound of footsteps approaching. Emma's pulse quickened. They had to think fast. Maybe there's a back way. She eyed the wall with a fire extinguisher bolted to the side. Lydia jumped, gripping the heavy metal canister. We can break it down. It's our only chance. Do it. George shouted, stepping protectively in front of Emma as Lydia took aim. With a deafening crash, the extinguisher shattered against the door, sending a cloud of dust and powder into the air. The door, creaking at the hinges, didn't budge. Again. Emma cried out, panic clawing at her throat. Lydia swung again, desperation fueling her every move. Just as the door began to yield, a chilling voice slid through the corridor, turning their blood to ice. You think you can escape so easily? Emma turned, eyes wide, heart sinking. As the cloaked figures filled the entry, she realized the game was far from over. They stumbled into something much darker than they anticipated. What twisted fate awaited them next? Would they be forever trapped in this maze of fear and shadows? Emma's mind raced with impossible question as hope slipped through her fingers like grains of sand. A suffocating silence cloaked the hallway, broken only by the chilling whispers of the cloaked figures advancing toward them. Emma's heart thudded violently against her ribcage, a frantic drum matched only by the cold sweat trickling down her back. Back! We have to back up. She hissed, her voice barely breaking from the panic bubbling inside her. But retreating into the shadows was like diving into an ocean of uncertainty. The door, keep hitting the door. George urged, his voice trembling. He glanced at Lydia, who gripped the fire extinguisher like it was her lifeline, knuckles white as bone. One of the cloaked figures stepped forward, their face obscured by a deep hood. You can't run from the truth, Emma. You're already caught in the web somewhere you can't escape, the figure intoned, voice dripping with cruel mockery. What truth? Emma shot back, fear igniting fury within her. What do you want from us? Just a little revelation. The figure spread their arms wide, a wide, sinister grin tugging at the shadows. An awakening for all three of you. Lydia swung the extinguisher hard again, the metal slamming against the door with an agonizing groan. The door began to splinter, the sound like cracking bones reverberating in the stillness. Keep going. Don't stop. Emma shouted, feeling the weight of time pressing down as the figures moved closer. Their laughter echoed in her ears, cutting through the thick air like a sharp knife. Are you ready to learn what's behind the curtain? Another cloaked figure taunted, their voice a serpentine hiss. Forget them. Just focus on the door. George urged, his eyes darting wildly as if searching for a safe escape route outside. With one last desperate swing, Lydia connected with the hinge. The door shuddered violently before swinging open with a creak, revealing a dark, narrow alley. Go, go, go. Emma pushed Lydia first, fear propelling her forward as the girls dashed into the darkness, George close behind. The clamor of footsteps behind them grew louder, menacing shadows dancing in pursuit. The alley was wet and bitterly cold, a far cry from the luxury inside. Emma's breath misted as she ran, the adrenaline surging through her veins like fire. She didn't dare look back, but she felt the eyes of the cloaked figures burning into her back. Which way? Lydia gasped, panting as they skidded to a halt, surveying their bleak surroundings, littered with abandoned crates and murky puddles reflecting the dim light from street lamps. Down! We need to keep moving forward. Emma shouted, urging them toward the far end of the alley. A dull noise echoed behind them, metal scraping against stone. Emma! George called out, fear lacing his voice as he stumbled slightly, breathing heavily. What if stop? We can't think that way. She grabbed his hand, holding it tightly. We have to trust each other. Just as they reached the end of the alley, a stifling fog rolled in, thickening and swirling. In that moment, Emma felt a shiver creep down her spine. Something was out there, lurking within the mist. Shadows flickered, and glimmers of light danced like phantoms among the crates. Suddenly, a new sound broke through the fog, a low growl, rumbling like thunder. Emma's heart dropped as a massive figure emerged, its shape colossal and menacing against the backdrop of the fog. What is that? Lydia shrieked, her voice shrill with panic. I don't know. Run! Emma screamed, instinct kicking in as she pushed them all forward. As they sprinted, a terrifying realization hit her: whatever had been unleashed hadn't just wanted them for a game. They were prey in a hunt, and their pursuers were only the beginning of something unimaginable. As they rounded a corner, Emma caught sight of a narrow path leading into shadows, a potential escape or the entrance to something worse. Which way? George gasped, desperation in his eyes, her gut twisted. I don't know, but we have to choose. Now. Their fate teetered on the edge of this decision. Would the shadows offer safety or lead them deeper into darkness? As the growl echoed one last time, Emma knew. The next move could cost them everything, or nothing at all. Emma pushed through the narrow path, adrenaline surging with every pounding heartbeat. The shadows engulfed them, the stench of damp earth and decay filled her nostrils, almost choking her. George and Lydia were close behind, breaths quickened and erratic, panic painting their faces in ghostly shades. Keep moving. Emma urged again, the ominous growl still echoing in the air, growing closer, almost hungry. The path twisted ahead, and as they turned a sharp corner, Emma skidded to a halt. A dead end loomed before them, a wall of grimy brick pulsing with the pulse of their hearts. What the hell? She gasped, dread creeping into her chest like ice. No! Lydia shouted, her voice cracking. They were cornered. Find a way. There has to be a way. George cried. His eyes darted frantically along the wall, searching for anything that could save them. Emma's mind raced, her vision tunneled. Maybe if they climbed, maybe no. That growl splintered through her thoughts again, louder and closer. Back. We can't just stand here. She shouted, pulling her friends back into the shadows, away from the wall. Almost instinctively, George stepped forward, straining against the fog, pushing against the chill creeping into his bones. There! He shouted, pointing to a loose board half hidden beneath layers of grime and filth. Let us go. Emma rallied, and without waiting a second, they shoved it aside. A small, dark hole lay before them, a narrow passage hidden away but filled with the possibility of escape. Are you sure? Lydia breathed, hesitating as the growl rumbled threateningly nearby. Do you want to be out here? Emma's voice was edged with urgency. We're not sticking around to find out what that thing is. Without looking back, Emma squeezed into the hole, followed closely by Lydia and George. It was cramped, dirty, and the smell was unbearable, but they slid through it, hearts racing in sync with the relentless pounding of footsteps echoing outside. As they plunged deeper into the passage, the sounds of the chase faded slightly, but the echoes of fear reverberated through their minds. The path twisted and turned, bending and rising. Emma's stomach churned with worry. What if they were only going deeper into danger? Each step in the dark felt heavier, every brush against the damp wall sent shudders through her bones. She couldn't shake the feeling they weren't alone. The biting silence hung thick, as if something were waiting, suspended in the dark. Suddenly, a faint light flickered ahead, a warm golden hue contrasting starkly with their shadowy surroundings. Emma felt a breath of hope as they stumbled toward it. They emerged into a larger chamber, its walls adorned with strange symbols glowing softly. The stench of dampness was replaced with a rich, almost sweet aroma that beckoned to their senses. Is this a hiding place? Lydia whispered, awe mixing with confusion. Emma took a step closer, careful not to disturb the fragile peace of the chamber. A stone altar sat in the center, archaic runes etched into its surface pulsing gently, like a heartbeat. "Maybe it's a shrine," George murmured, trailing his fingers along the stones, but then, a flash of movement caught Emma's eye from the corner. A shadow slinked through the entrance they had just come from. Fear gripped her gut. Whatever had been after them was here, lurking, watching. The growl echoed again, guttural and deeper than before. They were not safe. Not yet. "What do we do?" Lydia whimpered, scanning the chamber with wide eyes, the flickering light dancing across her panicked expression. Emma's heart raced as she faced the altar again. It seemed almost alive, calling to them. But at what cost? Suddenly, the air shifted, thickened. Emma shivered, feeling the weight of a presence encroach upon them. A choice lay before her: stay in this ethereal chamber or confront the nightmare behind them. Do we hide? Or do we fight? A haunting voice echoed from the entrance, just as the growl morphed into a derisive laugh. "Welcome to the awakening, Emma. It's time you learned the truth." Emma's heart plummeted. What truth? And why did the shadows feel so alive, tightening around her like a noose? She glanced at Lydia and George. Their faces reflected her own dread. The night was far from over, and they had yet to discover just how deep the darkness ran. The air felt electric as Emma gathered every ounce of courage. Shadows flickered at the edges of the room, amplifying the tight knot of fear in her chest. "No. We're not doing this anymore," she shouted defiantly, steeling her resolve against the encroaching darkness. Behind her, Lydia grasped George's arm, their faces pale but determined. "What do we do?" Lydia whispered, glancing nervously toward the entrance where the growl had echoed, the laughter still ringing in her ears. "It's time we expose them," Emma declared, her voice steadier than she felt. "Whatever truth they hold, we have to face it." With a shared nod, the trio turned toward the altar, feeling its mysterious allure pull them closer even as danger loomed behind them. They had to harness whatever power this place held. As they stepped closer, the runes began to glow brighter, filling the room with a warm golden light. Emma reached out, her fingers brushing the cool surface of the stones, and suddenly, clarity coursed through her. Images flooded her mind, memories of her family, of love, of hidden danger swirling around the Hargrove estate. "Wait!" Lydia exclaimed as she stepped beside Emma, her eyes widening. "Look!" A shimmering image rose above the altar, showing a scene of laughter, a younger George, carefree, dancing with Margaret in a sunlit garden. It shifted, revealing moments of tenderness but quickly darkening to moments of clandestine meetings, secrets whispered at the edges of opulence. "Why are they showing us this?" George murmured under his breath, the past wrinkling before them like well-worn pages. "It's not just a game for them. They want to expose everything," Emma said, her heart racing as she pieced it together. "They want to awaken the truth we've been hiding from." With each flicker of light, the hidden stories of betrayal and scheming unraveled, of alliances formed and broken, highlighting the very fragile foundation on which George and Helen's life rested. "This isn't just about us anymore. They're manipulating everything," Emma realized, her voice steady with newfound clarity. Just then, the growl echoed loudly again, snapping them back to the present moment. The figures had moved closer, shadows twisting into something menacing. "You think you can bargain with the truth?" one hissed, stepping forward with a menacing grin. Emma's pulse quickened, but she stood her ground. "You've toyed with everyone long enough. Show yourselves," she commanded, and for a split second, silence enveloped the chamber. Then the hoods came down, revealing familiar faces twisted in malice, familiar in name but foreign in intent. Among them stood Helen, eyes flashing dangerously. "You fragile fools, playing with truths that don't belong to you." Gasps surged through the air. "Mom. You." Emma began, shock mingling with betrayal. "This is part of the plan, Emma. All of this, it's about control. Power. We can't let you ruin it all. Helen spat, backing away as if drawing strength from her accomplices. But it's already broken. George shouted, stepping forward, fury igniting. The lies you built are crumbling into nothing. With that, the room vibrated violently. The altar pulsed wildly, now shimmering fiercely, brightening as if it recognized the conflict unfolding. They needed to harness its energy. Emma glanced at Lydia and George understood. Together. She shouted. We use this power to break the cycle. They gathered their courage, reaching toward the altar. A surge of warmth enveloped them, swirling like a tempest, like a cyclone of truth aimed at the heart of hidden lies. Enough. Helen screamed, panic creeping into her words. You're fools. You'll regret this. But the energy had already taken hold, forcing the shadows to recoil. Light burst forth, flooding the chamber as the truth crystallized all around them. Take it. Emma screamed with fierce resolve. With one final push, the trio unleashed a torrent of energy back at the cloaked figures, forcing them to retreat into the walls of darkness. Helen's expression flickered fear, disbelief, heartbreak as the shadows closed in. The ground trembled violently beneath them as the figures screamed, disintegrating into the ether. When the dust settled, the light remained, illuminating Emma, Lydia, and George. They stood entwined in relief, their breaths heavy but hopeful. The bond forged in a battle against darkness radiated warmth. Emma dared to smile despite everything. Together they had conquered the web of deceit, but as they turned back toward the doorway, a cold voice whispered, "This isn't over." It echoed ominously, lingering like smoke in the air. Emma held tight to Lydia and George, determination hardening within her. They had faced the darkest fears together, they could survive whatever came next. We'll face it, Emma vowed, her eyes blazing with light. Together. The future might be uncertain, but they forged a bond that nothing could break. As they stepped into the light, the path ahead shimmered with possibility. What would emerge next could be the ultimate awakening. The night was heavy with promise, and while shadows still loomed, they now stood in light, ready to navigate whatever came next. Don't wait any longer. If you've enjoyed the twists and turns of this incredible journey, subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now, let us feed the algorithm to keep the excitement rolling. And flood the comments section with your reactions. What did you think of the ending? Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to join this adventure. Only true fans understand the importance of your support. ACT now before the next chapter begins.